What would you do if the place you called home was no longer yours, stolen not by strangers, but by the people you loved most? For me, that wasn't a hypothetical. It was my life for nearly a decade. My name is Clara, and this is the story of how I reclaimed my house, my peace, and myself without a single regret. It began with a promise, the kind you make when you're young and believe family is an unbreakable bond. My parents built our home in the rolling hills of Virginia, a modest two-story with creaky floors and a wraparound porch that caught the sunset like a painting. It wasn't just a house. It was a keeper of memory as me first scraped knee, my mother's laughter over Sunday dinners, my father's quiet pride when I graduated college. When they passed away within a year of each other, I was 28, heartbroken, and determined to honor their legacy by keeping the house. It was all I had left of them. But family has a way of complicating things. My older brother, Nathan, had other plans. He'd always been the charming one, the one who could talk his way into or out of anything. When he showed up at my door with his wife, Lena, and their 2 kids, pleading for a place to stay after his business failed, I didn't hesitate. "It's our home," I said. "There's room for all of us." That was my first mistake. At first, it was manageable. Nathan's kids ran through the halls, filling the house with noise that dulled the ache of my parents' absence. Lena cooked elaborate meals, and we'd sit around the old oak table, pretending we were a family united. But slowly the dynamic shifted. Nathan started treating the house as his own, rearranging furniture, claiming the master bedroom, even suggesting I move to the guest room to give the kids more space. Lena stopped asking for my input, painting walls and replacing my mother's curtains without a word. I told myself it was temporary, that they'd get back on their feet. But months turned into years, and the house I loved became a battleground. The tension wasn't just about space, it was about power. Nathan began questioning my decisions, dismissing my connection to the house because I was just the younger sister. He'd say things like, "You're not married, Clara. You don't need all this space." Lena chimed in, her voice sweet but cutting, suggesting I'd be happier in an apartment closer to town. They wanted me out, and I started to feel like a guest in my own home. The worst part? I let them. I was so afraid of losing what little family I had left that I swallowed my pride, bit my tongue, and stayed silent. Then came the twist I never saw coming. One evening, as I sat on the porch trying to reclaim a sliver of peace, a stranger pulled into the driveway. She was an older woman, maybe 60, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Her name was Miriam, and she claimed to be our father's cousin, someone I'd never heard of. She wasn't there to reminisce. She was there to deliver a bombshell. She had a letter from my father, written years before his death, stating his wish that the house remained solely in my name. He'd known Nathan's tendencies, his charm that masked selfishness, and he'd wanted to protect me. Miriam had been entrusted with the letter, but had lost contact with the family until now. Her arrival was like a match struck in the dark. It changed everything. That letter gave me the courage I'd been missing. I confronted Nathan and Lena, showing them the document. Nathan's face turned red, his charm replaced by defensiveness. "This is our home, too," he shouted. Lena cried, accusing me of betraying the family. But Miriam, unflinching, stood by me. "This was never yours to take," she said, her voice steady. For the first time, I saw Nathan's confidence crack. The kids, confused and caught in the middle, didn't know who to believe. It broke my heart, but I knew I had to stand my ground. The legal battle that followed was brutal. Nathan hired a lawyer, claiming I'd manipulated our father's wishes. He painted me as greedy, unstable, unfit to own the house. Lena spread rumors in our small town, and I felt the weight of judgmental stares at the grocery store. But Miriam became my unexpected ally. She wasn't just a distant relative. She was a retired attorney with a sharp mind and a fiercer heart. She took on my case pro bono, digging through records to prove the house was mine. Every court date felt like a wound reopened, but Miriam's presence reminded me I wasn't alone. She'd lost her own home to a family dispute years ago and understood the pain of fighting for what was rightfully yours. The turning point came during a mediation session. Nathan, desperate to keep control, offered to buy me out. It was a tempting offer, freedom from the fight, money to start over. But as I sat there, I thought of my parents, of the porch where my mother taught me to braid flowers, of the kitchen where my father hummed while fixing the sink. That house wasn't just property, it was my heart. I looked Nathan in the eyes and said, "No, this is my home, and I'm not leaving." For the first time, I saw him falter, realizing I wasn't the pushover he'd counted on. The court ruled in my favor. Nathan and Lena had 30 days to move out. It wasn't easy watching them pack, especially the kids, who hugged me tightly before they left. I promised them they'd always be welcome, but I knew things would never be the same. The day they drove away, I stood on the porch, feeling the weight of the house settle back into my hands. It was mine again, but it felt different, quieter, heavier, but also lighter in a way I couldn't yet describe. Reclaiming the house was only half the battle. The real work was rebuilding myself. I repainted the walls, choosing colors that felt like me, not Lena's garish choices. I planted a garden in the front yard, something my mother always wanted but never had time for. I invited Miriam over for coffee, and we laughed over stories of my father's quirks, stories I'd never heard before. The house began to feel like home again, not just a structure but a space where I could breathe, create, and live on my terms. There were moments of doubt, of course. I wondered if I'd been too harsh, if I'd lost my family for good. But every time I walked through the front door, I felt a quiet strength. I'd fought for myself, for my parents' legacy, and I'd won. Nathan and I don't speak much now, but I've made peace with that. The kids visit sometimes, and I see glimmers of hope that we might rebuild something new, something honest. Living free doesn't mean living without pain. It means choosing yourself, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. I walk through my house now, touching the walls, hearing the echoes of my parents' love, and I know I made the right choice. No regrets, just freedom, hard-won and fiercely cherished.